Nuclear Heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
There have been rumors all day of a return for myself to radio this evening. Everybody got excited, and now I'm just going to jabber on. I'm not going to tell you whether I'm a good guy or a bad guy. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. Any place for WrestleMania, I'm not sure. But no, obviously, mocking the Rock situation this past week. There's something special about learning that the Rock will show up on a weekly episode of Raw or SmackDown. And there's plenty to critique about this particular appearance, but I just wanted to ask you, Augie, as we bring you into the room. I'm Jake Bockoven, host of Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket, alongside my tag team partner, Nuclear Heat contributor Augie Pena. Did you get that feeling once you find out Thursday night, Friday? I mean, it just amplifies how excited you are to see that episode, in particular this one being SmackDown, and just see what's up and have the most electrifying man in show business in his rightful place, as we wrestling fans like to think. In the squared circle. So yeah, we've got places, things to critique, but just that energy that you got Thursday and Friday, did you feel it?
Yeah, I did for sure. I was very excited. Obviously with WrestleMania season coming up, we were kind of a little disappointed with kind of what The Rock's been doing. And then when you see that, you're like, yeah, let's go. Maybe something will happen on there. And I actually I was like, okay, I'm not going to miss any part of SmackDown, right? So I watched the beginning of it, and I was like, all right, going there. And yeah, it's what he brings is just different, right? Like what he can bring, a John Cena can bring. It's just a total different vibe and just so many eyes on there. And I guess I heard it was like, it wasn't just, he decided he was going to be there Thursday night, I think. So they had to redo SmackDown.
Oh, okay.
When you hear stuff like that, you're like, all right, something big's going to happen. And then we got what we got, big, but confusing. Different.
Yeah.
Don't know how it, how I felt after it. Still excited, because it's going to lead to something towards WrestleMania, but it was a little bit different on that side there. Not like you said, he was kind of a heel, babyface. It's just a little bit different view of The Rock, kind of something we've seen since the Netflix to Raw, where he's kind of, it's like he doesn't know what he wants to do, and it's like the company doesn't know what they want him to be presented as.
Yeah, he's kind of halfway in between, kind of a corporate type of guy. Obviously, a big stakeholder in the company. Even he brought that up in his promo this go around. And so sometimes it's just kind of being brought out as that Rock. Triple H has had to go through this for some years. I don't want to say had to go through it. It's not that big of a pain, but you just kind of blur the lines of sometimes this is the CEO Triple H talking to you, and then sometimes this is the guy that wants to get his revenge and is going to bring it out a sledgehammer and go to every end. And that's kind of what The Rock this past year, this feud with Cody leading up to WrestleMania. And of course they made the change to go from The Rock and Roman and to include Cody in there and do the whole tag team the first night. But I mean, it was a blood feud. I mean, there's literal blood against the bus and calling out, each other's mamas and all that sort of thing. And so it was kind of weird that when he did go to the CEO role, or I don't even know what his role in the company is, but higher up role, a couple weeks ago, he would kind of acknowledge Cody as a friend or whatever, as somebody that's put the company on his back. And you're thinking, okay, don't love it that they did that on television, but at least, it's transparent and we know that's the thing. Let's get back to the feud. And then this one, is they almost are going a different way. They've had this storyline of The Rock and obviously the bloodline storyline and the redemption arc for Cody Rhodes and all that and finish the story. And we got there and you wanted to see, okay, what are they going to do next? And it's somewhere this last episode didn't lead me into believing it was taking the right direction, because they've got a great feud built in. That's what I asked for some of these. I want Charlotte and Tiffany, but I want a blood feud. I want story behind it. I want it to matter. And they've got all that packaged together again with years of work and different, pushes here and there and putting some guys down and bringing other guys up. Specifically Jey Uso, who's still tied into the whole thing. Sammy, they didn't quite strike on, and in his career, they've been kind of
Yeah.
figuring out ways to patch it up since then. And it seems as though maybe they're making a turn to where now The Rock respects, and obviously it still looks like it's going to end up with Rock and Cody at some point. Doesn't necessarily, it's not clear whether that's WrestleMania or not, but I just felt like they have the story. They didn't need to create a new one, and they're seemingly somewhat creating a new one here. If you missed it, again, we're kind of breaking it down, but The Rock kind of went in there, did some heel and babyface promos, came out to some New Orleans themed music. They were in the New Orleans, and so he announced that WrestleMania was going to be there, and that was kind of his CEO role, or again, I keep saying CEO,
I
but
think he's a
higher
board
up role.
director.
Board of director.
Yeah, I think that's his.
Sounds
something
more
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But in any case, so he kind of did that, and then he brought Cody out, and again was kind of turning on the crowd, but he could always, and that stuff he can do with the best of anybody, right? We
Yeah.
always talk about him being one of the best promos in the business, but it's just kind of interesting because he ended saying, Cody was kind of thinking he was pointing at the title that he was going to come after, and we're all thinking WrestleMania, and we're thinking, okay, this is more like it. I don't know
Yeah.
what this elimination chamber, but still some things to figure out there. And then he says, "No, I want your soul," and that's kind of how it ends. And I always think, it ended with The Rock walking away and Cody confused in the ring, and I think the audience confused in general. And I always think I legitimately again had this feeling Thursday and Friday of like, oh my goodness. And so it's always hard to measure up to that. But I always think like going in, if we're gonna do something, if we're gonna move The Rock in, do we want his appearance leaving with the building just being like, what?
Yeah.
Or as opposed to really jacked up and excited about what the next story is. But again, it's long-term storytelling. Not every audience can get the big payoff. So they're definitely setting something up, but I just feel like they're throwing a big story away to move to transition this thing. And maybe it's because they can't get it done at WrestleMania.
Yeah. And, a lot of people, I think I said last week too, I was very disappointed that The Rock, it seemed like wasn't going to have an involvement in WrestleMania, no match. Yeah. Then they throw us a bone there, but like you said, it's kind of a different story because, when he says, I want you to be my champion, I want your soul, things like that. Cody's kind of giving that face like what? Like we are, right? What? This doesn't make sense. But then I got to think about it, right? A little bit. And this could be brilliant because they're going to meet up in Toronto where Cody's going to give him an answer. If Cody says no, and let's say John Cena doesn't win the Elimination Chamber, The Rock says, hey, do you want to be my champion? I know it probably wouldn't be people's favorite things, but then you have a triple threat, for that championship, and The Rock won't wrestle, but he has somebody going, wrestling for him. That's kind of what my thought process of it, because I really don't think The Rock's going to wrestle. It seems like he gave that indication, right? That it's not a one-on-one match that he wants. He more just wants Cody to say, I don't know, I'm your champion.
Well, it's kind of strange because he's, The Rock knows where he is even outside of wrestling. And it was basically kind of sell your soul so I can bring you, elevate you up to my level, which was also a little bit of an interesting way to do it because, we all know the star power The Rock has, and it's hard for it. To be quite frank, it's going to be hard for Cody Rhodes to ever achieve that, regardless of what they do in this WWE ring. So it's kind of weird too, because in a way it was a little bit devaluing your champion by saying, I can bring you to that next level, but it does it brings you back to kind of the authority and that might be what we kind of have. And I like the authority era. Some people got tired of it. It could become repetitive, but that's kind of what this promo felt like is more maybe the authority, and obviously not that old stable, but an authority type figure, telling a guy to sell his soul. It's certainly something we could see Vince doing in the past.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to this because I really don't think John Cena's winning this Elimination Chamber. I really think it's going to be CM Punk. And they have history. CM Punk got screwed over by The Rock, what was it, like 10 years ago? Or like around there? To have that match with John Cena. John Cena kind of gave a heelish promo after losing the Royal Rumble. He said it'd be best for business if John Cena were to main event WrestleMania. If John Cena were to win that championship. And now The Rock's coming out and saying, hey, I can do this for you. Everybody's wanted John Cena to be heel, to turn heel and whatnot. this is kind of a perfect time to kind of pair them up. Two of the bigger names, ever in the WWE, two big Hollywood stars right now. I would say The Rock is kind of maybe above John Cena right now, but John Cena is not too far behind. I mean, they could say that, this is my wrestling fantasy booking, kind of where I see it going. Because if it turns into like a Rock Cody match, which I think, I don't see, but I just don't see where else it could go, right? Other than Cody maybe aligning with The Rock. But like you said, that's really weird, with everything they did last year. It really just kind of blew my mind what the WWE is doing, and this is what kind of captivates you into wanting to watch more, right? What is the payoff of this? Because right now we think, I'll say it was pretty cringe, right? What was going on, but I'm interested. What are you doing? What's the payoff here? I'm saying all this stuff with John Cena could be nothing with that, so that's they hooked us in, reeled us. We talked about it. The WrestleMania kind of timeline was, the buildup was not great. They throw this in here. It's not well received, but we saw what happened last year when something wasn't well received after the Royal Rumble. The Rock going to take the spot of Cody. They turned that around and it turned into a pretty great main event.
Yeah.
Night 2 WrestleMania. So I'm a little confident. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. It was a pretty weak night of SmackDown with the Rock's return, but never lose faith in Triple H, because I think he can. They got something going on here that's going to be interesting.
Well, and we got March 1st, so next Saturday will be Elimination Chamber. Then then you kind of really gear into WrestleMania, which will be, again, a 2-night event, April 19th and 20th this year. So you got about a month and a half of programming to get there. Of course, I can't wait more than anything. The Andre, of course, will be on that SmackDown before WrestleMania, I'm sure, unless they completely just disregard it, because it's been pretty bad these last couple of years.
Yeah.
But Jey Uso did once win it, so never forget it can propel your career forward.
After 5 years,
after
right?
5 years,
yeah.
After 5 years after we win the Andre, it's a big deal. But I say all that because it's kind of interesting too. There's an argument, and it's basically, this is the fun of it. I mean, we have a whole show based around, I don't want to say fantasy booking, but breaking down what they're doing and what they could do, what would intrigue us, all that sort of stuff. And there's a big audience for it, within the WWE universe. People love it. But it almost has gotten, and you hate to say these like keywords, but like toxic or something on Twitter, because there's people going back and forth. You just let them do their job. They know better than you. And then, you're just, you're just this or that. And then, so there's this big argument about, is Triple H doing well creatively? Is he doing well in his role? And again, I think part of it is compared to last year. Like, you did such a good job last year that it feels like it's coming up a little bit short. And again, remember the reason why all that stuff in the back, the creative and the business behind WWE is so fun to talk about is because there are contracts, there are egos, there are injuries, there's all sorts of things that come into play. So you can sit back and fantasy book whatever we want, as long as we don't have to pay the checks and we know the contracts go as far as we want, but we don't know all the business details to it.
Yeah.
So that's always interesting. But it's hard. It's very difficult. And WWE has basically got a monopoly. We know AEW and some of these other institutions over the years have been able to fight and find a role, but WWE is pro wrestling in America. So not everything's going to be great. I think we look at the Attitude Era and we think everything was great. If you go watch an episode of the Attitude Era, there's plenty to pick out of just about any era of wrestling. So not every storyline's going to be great. Not every contract's going to line up with what you exactly want. But how do you feel about Triple? I mean, we've kind of talked about it. I kind of know both our feelings isn't that this is all the way lining up in every feud to be great, but how do you feel about the argument right now based on Triple H as a booker?
I think it's been a little disappointing. As you said, there's some good spots, but we talked about it. You look at the mid-card women champions. Everybody wanted this for decades, right? Like, this was something hyped about it. The tournament was great, right? The one-on-one tournaments they had, their champions have done nothing. The tag team championships, nothing. They're to me, they're almost worse than mid-card, right? On that Finn Balor, the Judgment Day. I mean, I can point out, so many wrestlers that are just being they're not even being used, anymore. Your boy Giovanni Vinci, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was not great booking. I don't know what
Isla Dawn and is it Blair Davenport? Were they the
Isla Dawn and Alba Fire?
Alba Fire.
Yeah.
they were champions twice last year. They were called up from NXT. Carmelo Hayes was the #1 overall draft pick in the draft. What is he now? He's a jobber like LA Knight. We talked about it. Now he's kind of stuck in the mid card, but he was essentially Jey Uso, right? I would say it's been a little disappointing just because, obviously Roman Reigns, we talked about it. The bloodline has kind of saved the WWE for the last 4 years, Roman Reigns, because when we first started the show, there were countless times where we were like, man, this was kind of a not great episode, right? Not great episode. And then the bloodline comes on, Roman Reigns, they have those matches, those storylines kept it going. So I'd say I'm a little disappointed. I'd give it like a 5 out of 10, on there. And we've seen worse, right? Like there were some, like you said, there were some worse times, which I'm also going to say I've tweeted once in the past like 6 years, and it was to complain about Monday Night Raw. Like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when it was like Judgment Day, Bloodline always ended the show. Sami Zayn, something like that. Which I'm going to ask you, if you use Twitter more, do you think you'd be if you would really give your opinion, would you be a toxic Twitter fan for the WWE?
I don't think so. I mean, again, the fun part of it and why we do the show and have fun doing it is to break down and say what we would do, or what makes more sense, or what the WWE universe wants. So in a way that's inherently kind of going against the grain of what they're doing, but at the same time, and even the people that are doing that, they're watching, they're just following along the whole thing. And it's a lot, WWE asks you as a fan a lot to stay in tune to what's going on. They never take a break. It's week in, week out. Monday and Friday, and then sometimes premium live events, and then you've got stuff going on Twitter. I mean, there's just so much to keep up with. And again, it's just a lot of programming. So I don't think that I would be, overly against it. And again, part of it's just where we're from, where you come from, because I remember SmackDown being pre-recorded, and then so you would they just never, it was definitely, there was an idea of an A and a B show, and SmackDown was by far the B show. And at sometimes, like when they began SmackDown, that wasn't the case. There were certain networks that would pick up SmackDown where that wouldn't be the case. Fox, as most recently, came in and that kind of elevated it maybe to even the A show over Raw. So they've had kind of different ups and downs and ways they'd even look at the shows. I'm glad that now, and this was kind of part, is The Rock was returning to SmackDown, which is on USA Network. I was surprised maybe they didn't save that for Netflix or Peacock. They just have so many sponsors and different ways to, different people to please, that they have to come out with something big on Friday, and then something at least every couple Mondays to do, and then your premium live event. So as a fan, I actually like that. Obviously prefer that. I think every fan would, to the pre-recorded UPN SmackDowns that we got before. And there's been certain times where they split the roster and all that. So I think they're doing well. It's just the problem is, again, there's just so much potential, and that's what kind of hurts them, is going back to that Royal Rumble, is there's just so many ways to book it that would seemingly just be like printing money and excitement. And instead of that, and maybe they'll get to that eventually, but instead of that, we're all just kind of here wondering, what this last Rock promo was, and then feeling like, I don't know, let's say 80% of the Elimination Chamber competitors don't really have a chance, because unless they're going to go with another Jey Uso moment, and you just go, I don't know if this is best for business for WrestleMania. So this is a long answer, obviously, but it's somewhere between where I'm entertained enough and not quite to where I want it to be, I guess.
Yeah, and I will say, on to your point, I'm getting a little bit worried, as you said, that they're going to go back to treating maybe SmackDown more as a B show, because I don't know if you saw, they are going to end that brand split. I think it's after the Elimination Chamber. The brand split is no more, so superstars can be wherever. That makes you worry, something that could be big on SmackDown, Cody Rhodes, Rock, in the future, probably going to be on Netflix from that, just kind of where the money is. And I would say this, we talked about it. We were a little excited about it. Adding that third hour to SmackDown, I think, has been one of the biggest mistakes that they've done too. And then Raw is now only about an hour and a half, so they kind of
Swap them.
The weaker roster, the weaker show has 3 hours. The stronger show, I would say, as we talked about it, is now an hour and a half. You got to do something to balance that out on there. So those are kind of the points there too. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've tweeted one genuine tweet. I do a lot of retweets, retweeting when the show's on, things like that. But one post was to complain about how they kept doing the same main event for like a whole year. Raw, Judgment Day, Cody coming in, Sammy, all that fun stuff. It was the same exact thing. So
Yeah.
I like to always say I give it a chance, kind of like you, right?
Yeah.
I am a huge fan. I've been a lifelong fan, but I also like to speak my opinions on it, which is why I'm glad you asked me to come on here and talk with you. Because I will say, I think it's kind of here. If you can't see, I'm kind of pointing down.
Yeah.
It's right there, but I know, give it a little bit of time and it'll probably pick up once the Elimination Chamber, clears out and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I mean, the last year I think too, there were a lot of good guy wins at WrestleMania. It was basically booked for the fan that wants the good guy to win in the end. And they don't always do that either. And I think wrestling is better when they kind of toy with your emotions and put in. And so we're kind of in the middle of being toyed, and we don't like it, but at the same time, it's better than just being handed, generic good guy wins all the time sort of stuff. So, I think that, that's just part of it. And again, to the people that want to argue, you don't want to say a word about booking or all this sort of stuff, then you're really taking the point out of being a fan. I mean, that's the whole point, is that we talk about it. We may not like everything, but we're connected, and we're going to continue to support it, obviously. And so I don't really have as much of a problem with that stuff, but it was hard just to go because of the Rock stuff, kind of left people out there wondering. It was hard to avoid that conversation just in social media this past week. So I thought we might address it.
Yeah. No, that's true. And, the good thing about it too is we all have different opinions and different likes. You like Nia Jax. I don't. That you're the only Nia Jax fan I've ever met. There are other things, other wrestlers like when some were getting released, that Alba Fire, she had a bunch of fans. I wasn't particularly fond of her. I didn't think she was bad, but there's some you just kind of cling on to. So as you say, you can't please everybody. And when you give a Jey Uso a chance, you're trying to create a new megastar, right? Because that's the point of it. We always say there aren't, top stars, as much. Look at Damian Priest. I feel like they're still pushing him to the moon. There's no reason for him to be in this Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
And Saturday or Friday, to do what he did, to get that main event win on there over, who he got it over and things like that. They try different things. You got to give them some credit for it, because sometimes it does work. But, I feel like as of late, some people, they try to push. It's not working, or it feels forced.
Yeah, and I think too, the whole bloodline story also brings together that family, right? And so when you think about, and I think that's part of the maybe, again, minority. When you look at Jey Uso entering arena, everybody's having fun. Everybody's, so whether or not I think it's something I would have done, maybe not, but I see that it's wildly over. The crowd loves it. He's a top merch seller. And I always say I love long-term storytelling. Well, that's the longest term storytelling you can do, from the beginning of being, such one of the best tag team competitors of all time to crossing this road and being part of that bloodline. But I think part of it, though, is you're feeling like we still don't feel like we're going to get The Rock, and in his place, we're getting Jey Uso. So I think that's what kind of hurts from that family, and maybe that will help in the long-term storytelling of it, is you elevate Jey. Now you've got another guy to kind of throw in there with The Rock and Roman Reigns, and as these things go down, it's just hard to believe that he's going to get there. And then me, as a fan of heels and people that do really good heel work, like that's a big fan of Drew McIntyre, partially because of that, is that I don't know if you're getting the most out of Gunther.
Yeah.
If you're kind of forcing these WrestleMania losses on him and his big title reigns to mid-carders with a ceiling, we'll say, without the ultimate push. You're kind of giving him the second-hand push, but not the big title push. And, so it's interesting to see. But again, I always say it's easy just to book the Goldberg push for everybody, and then everybody would be over and they'd be great and nobody would lose. And but there's only so many spots, and that's why it's interesting to see what they do here as we get toward Elimination Chamber and head toward WrestleMania. Let's take a quick break, and then we can talk about the specific episodes of Raw and SmackDown here on Nuclear Heat, our WWE Week in Review show right here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Step into healing at Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery. Our team of top-notch medical professionals turns pain into progress with state-of-the-art treatments and compassionate care. Visit prairieortho.com and discover the difference in quality orthopedic and plastic surgery services tailored to your unique needs. Your health matters, and Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery is dedicated to helping you thrive. Reach your full potential. Embrace a better tomorrow with Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery.
Outside is where winter adventure unfolds. On frozen lakes, icy landscapes, and snow-covered slopes. Feeling the cold air rush by as you race downhill. The freedom of gliding with ease and the warmth of being together. From epic sled rides to the fun of ice fishing, it's all right here beneath Nebraska skies. Start your winter adventure at yournebraskaparks.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Associations and this station.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road.
Hey there, fellas. It's your girl Jordan with Sartor Heyman Jewelry. When it comes to gift giving, it's all about the wow factor. And let me tell you, nothing wows quite like jewelry. Whether it's a delicate necklace or a statement ring, jewelry makes the right statement. So if you want to knock her socks off, or anything else for that matter, skip the generic gifts and go straight for the bling. Until next time, this is Jordan at Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
Mulberry Barbecue now has a brand new second location to help all your lunch and dinner cravings. Stop by their newest location at 6125 Apples Way near Lowe's off of Highway 2. They have everything from smoked turkey sandwiches to brisket burritos to burn-in sandwiches and pulled pork. Try a dinner plate option of barbecue nachos, a half-smoked chicken, a full slab of ribs, and so much more. Mulberry Barbecue open Monday to Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 11th and Cornhusker Highway, and now at 6125 Apples Way in South Lincoln.
Give your furnace a break with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Heartland of Nebraska Windows offers a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty of everything, while still keeping their prices affordable. Sounds too good to be true, right? Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give the window experts at Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today at 402-430-3852 or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. Elevate your home or business with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows today. Salt Mine City is not only Lincoln's newest brewery, but they're also now serving food. Enjoy a full menu of great items daily for lunch and dinner, like their peanut butter and jelly burger with bacon and cheddar cheese, or a Reuben sandwich served on Blackstone rye bread. Don't forget their beef or chicken nachos with guacamole, sour cream, jalapenos, and more. Wash it down with one of their 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager. Salt Mine City, now open 11 a.m. every day but Mondays at 8th and R.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Why are some people more successful? Is it talent and determination, or did they recognize an opportunity? Discover a career that lets you help families reach their financial goals as you build lasting professional relationships, one with unlimited income potential. From Modern Woodman, a leading fraternal financial services provider.
I'm Modern Woodman Regional Director Sean Erickson. Call me at 402-483-6515 to learn about career opportunities.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
I'm softball player Jordy Ball, and I'm proud of my Nebraska roots, and I'm proud to be back home. And at Midwest Bank, they're proud to be your local community bank. They believe in family first, taking initiative, showing integrity, and rolling up their sleeves to support their local communities. They treat everyone like family, no matter where you're from. Whether you walk into a branch in York, Lincoln, Norfolk, or Pierce, you know you're going to be welcomed with a smile. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank.
Did you know that AmeriCorps programs improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement in Nebraska? For example, members serving with AmeriCorps programs like Partnership for Kids provide kids with the support they need to succeed in school and prepare for their dream career. Discover more about AmeriCorps programs making a difference in your community at serve.nebraska.gov. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, welcome back to Nuclear Heat, our WWE Week in Review show here on 93.7 The Ticket. And the word is getting out a little bit, Augie. I saw this past week we were a top 60 ranked, or a top 100 of WWE podcasts. So we definitely appreciate that. I'll look at it afterwards and make sure I get the credit where it's due. But I've look around. The word is spreading. Nuclear Heat is the place to be to talk some WWE wrestling. We're ready to talk some WWE Raw this past week from Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, they will have the next Raw tomorrow night, but this one started out with Sami Zayn coming out for a promo. He wanted a match with Kevin Owens. He doesn't care how injured he is, so he wants to get his revenge on Kevin Owens. Of course, they've been doing these promos mostly through video these last couple of weeks. And this week we even had one with Kevin Owens at Sami Zayn's house outside his window, which of course they do a lot in wrestling too. So man, this guy really is dangerous.
Yeah.
But in any case, this segment wrapped up with Raw GM General Manager Adam Pearce coming out and saying, you know what, we cannot sanction this fight. You want to do it, it'll be an unsanctioned fight, and no matter what happens to you in that match, and they said different words, that we can't be held responsible for that. And then Sami Zayn comes back. Well, whatever I do to him, you can't can't make me held responsible. So I thought this was a good way to get it going. A few different thoughts. Toronto obviously makes a lot of sense. Both of these Canadian-born guys, they get huge reactions in Canada, so that kind of makes it interesting reason to be at Elimination Chamber. But it feels like you're setting up for WrestleMania. I'd be surprised if this doesn't go to WrestleMania specifically because this is an unsanctioned match, and therefore maybe you need the sanctioned match payoff at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that as well, that they announced it for there. But like you said, it makes sense, kind of like when Sami Zayn took on Roman Reigns, for his title a little bit ago. And an unsanctioned match, just for people who don't know, because I'm going to be honest, I had to look up what an unsanctioned match is. It just means they're just kind of out there doing their own thing, right? It's not like an official match, it's a match, but it's like, you're just kind of out there.
It doesn't go in the WWE record, which nobody cares about.
Yeah, so pretty much whatever happens in it happens in it, right? You can do what you want. So I think that's fun. I mean, in a way, these two can really, put on a match in there. I agree. I think it will go over to WrestleMania, which is maybe like my that's kind of putting a little bit of a spot on this feud, because we talked about kind of when Jey Uso, won the Royal Rumble and was going to pick Gunther. We had just seen it the week before, right? That's kind of the problem with having the Elimination Chamber is if you have a match on the Elimination Chamber and you just move it over to WrestleMania, where's the excitement in that, right? Unless they put on just a banger, like 10 out of 10 match that everybody's like, okay, we need to see that again. Then, maybe a Hell in a Cell, a steel cage match at WrestleMania, something like that. But that's kind of where the worry comes in. But I do expect that these two guys have to do something at WrestleMania, and they're, the unsanctioned match might be a pile driver, like 5 seconds into it, it's a pile driver, or something like that, a steel chair. I don't expect like a clean finish match or anything like that. And then WrestleMania will be like their official match. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it feels like they're setting up that way. Remember, I mean, we could have Randy Orton thrown into this at any point, because he was taken out by Kevin Owens with this move that he's is reportedly and supposedly I should say taking Sami Zayn out with. So that could always pop it up and add it to it. But I think that this is a good way to kind of build it, not just like keep it where it is, like you're saying. to get it to WrestleMania. And certainly, again, with a month and a half between Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, I think they'll probably run with an injury angle. My guess would be on Sami Zayn. I think Kevin Owens has been built up this year as he's kind of a whole nother level of ruthlessness. He's shown that off. Let's pay it off at WrestleMania. Somebody, shows him who's the boss there at WrestleMania. So again, whether that's Sami Zayn or Randy Orton, remains to be seen. I'm just a big Randy Orton fan, so I always keep that in my mind. Then we had AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio, despite Dirty Dom's attempts and using interference from Carlito from the outside. The Phenomenal One was able to win this, but it was a little bit bigger of a story out of all of this was that Braun Breaker showed up in the ring. Of course, he is the IC title Intercontinental Champion right now. He was about ready to spear AJ Styles. AJ Styles catches it at the last minute, gets out of the way, and the spear instead goes to Mysterio. So you're setting up Braun Breaker and AJ Styles, and that is a pretty solid WrestleMania match if that's where they go with it.
Yeah, we had said, Braun was kind of lost in the shuffle. We thought they might do like a Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser again, but AJ Styles, I mean, that's fresh. AJ's been out of action for about over a year. I think he's a Grand Slam champion as well, former WWE champion. This is a great feud for Braun Breaker as long as they, do it right. And one spot I really like that I don't know why it's catching so much attention, but when Braun threw the shirt in there and AJ just caught it like it was nothing.
That's right.
It kind of looks like it means business. And Braun was pretty upset that he didn't land that spear. So this is already starting off pretty nice. I am okay with this being the direction they go for WrestleMania for Braun Breaker.
Well, you remember when Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns were going out? They had plenty of feuds, but there was one time where I think Brock was on top of a tractor or something that he brought up, and he threw his mic down at Roman, and Roman just catches it clean. It might have been the opposite. I don't even remember. That's just what it reminded me of. It's like, it just looks so smooth. It's like, oh, we'll run with that.
Yeah, and Roman gave him that smile that, I caught that. Yeah. And everybody was like, that's pretty much what it was. So I think, that's something. See, that's what that's kind of the weird thing about us, right? Something small like that. It's like
the details.
That was a pretty cool moment. You know, he threw a shirt at him and the guy just effortlessly, it just like snatched it out of the air. And they're like, oh, that was a great moment.
and was it Braun Breaker? No cowboy hat. So I don't know if that was a long-term thing or just the Texas appearance or whatever.
I'm glad it was a one-time thing. Well, everybody was wearing a cowboy hat that Raw. We're okay with a cowboy hat unless it's JBL. Everybody else kind of has to just get rid of
it. So that wasn't a long-term thing. Mysterio loses. Don't want to spoil it later. Finn Balor loses. Just basically everybody in Judgment Day is losing. So, Raquel Rodriguez lost. There's just this. So the thought is, okay, well, what does this mean? Because Finn Balor's been putting pressure on Dom, and Dom wants to get it and recruit another person to come into Judgment Day. And so maybe Dom will have more ammunition there with all of them losing. But it's just the Judgment Day is just struggle bus right
now. It's really rough. They had that segment where they talked about it. Finn, like you said, no new members. Seems like everybody else wants a new member. I don't know how you can keep this interesting enough they, like you said, they're all losing except for Liv Morgan, right? She's literally the only one that has any sort of a future going forward right now. Dom, with the heat he has, but he doesn't get wins. It's not helping him on that. So if they're going to turn on Finn gets kicked out, like you said, I just think it's one of those, they waited way too long, too many L's. I just don't know what you can do. What are you going to do with this faction that's supposed to be the biggest faction on Raw? They can't win. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you doing with them for WrestleMania season?
Yeah, they got to find some way to keep them back up, in my mind, before they do the breakup. If they eventually get there, it'd be really sad for this. And maybe the breakup has already happened, right? Maybe when time will tell us that it was SummerSlam and it was when Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley left the group. And I think that was going to be the height of Judgment Day, right? I don't think they're ever going to get back to that level. But just to watch it dismantle to this level, and if they did the breakup storyline now when nobody's winning, then it would be really bad. So hopefully they're able to at least keep Judgment Day around. Maybe get them a few wins and get some things going. Let's go to the women's Intercontinental title number 1 contenders match. Dakota Kai and Ivy Nile. Lyra Valkyria was watching from ringside. was a competitive match. Niall had an opportunity. She was kind of doing the Kurt Angle inspired ankle locks there, which is good, with her group that she comes from. But ultimately, Kai was able to fight back, hit a GTK for the win. The crowd wasn't particularly into this. Maybe it was because, you just kind of have a lot of star power, the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles stuff before you get into this. But to our bigger point is that, these three women as well have kind of had their chance. And so WD's kind of teaching you not to care necessarily about this. Lyra Valkyria lost her last match against Bayley. Ivy Nile, I don't know if the crowd's necessarily buying into her current role. I think it's solid, but again, a little bit of a push would help from that group, even to win here. And that's what I was thinking. I'm a way bigger fan of Dakota Kai than Ivy Nile, but I thought Ivy Nile would be a good first nemesis for Lyra Valkyria. Now you've kind of got the crowd. I don't know if they're not pro really anything, but there's two good guys, I suppose, in Dakota Kai going up against Lyra Valkyria. And so again, I think the crowd's just going to be a little bit confused about who to cheer for, why they care. Again, we talked about this from the beginning. We've been talking about it. They brought this Intercontinental title in, and it's just been nothing. And then, to this point, at least we have a first contender for Valkyria, but definitely not coming in on fire.
It took a month and a half for her first contender to be the person she beat for the title. And it was confusing because Ivy Nile was being set up to be her first contender. She was in every segment with her. They were talking her up like it. The Royal Rumble, they had their run in. The past couple weeks, they've had their run in. Dakota Kai wasn't anywhere, right, to be seen. And then they kind of bring her back in and she gets another shot at it. And I'm like, because, I wanted Dakota Kai to be the one that win. Yeah. I feel like if they would have given it to Dakota Kai over Lyra, would have been a different feel, right? Because Dakota Kai kind of has that star power. She has the fan base where Lyra is new. I think this is her first year on the main roster on there. And then they have Dakota Kai beat Ivy Nile and kind of throw all that away. And like you said, it's kind of like with the U.S. Championship. Meech and Chelsea Green, that's it. I think Lyra's done nothing. She was the second person eliminated. I bring this up all the time. Yeah. She was the second person eliminated in the Royal Rumble after like 3 minutes. And then she lost to Bayley. In that match, like you said, those are her 2 matches she's had since her 2 big appearances since she's won this title. 2 losses, 2 pretty bad losses. Yeah, you kind of just don't care about this. And like we said, it's so disappointing because everybody was so excited about these. I just think the booking's bad, but you gave it to the wrong person as well. Because we've talked about it. You could have given it to Bayley, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, somebody with a star power. You gave it to nobody that really had nothing other than she's being pushed to the moon and was the runner-up in 3 other events. You kind of put yourself in a corner there.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Obviously, it doesn't look like the Intercontinental title is going to make it to WrestleMania. I would be hard pressed to see that, but it's weird because Lyra Valkyrie was kind of getting that Roxanne Perez treatment that she's kind of getting now, and it's almost too much without them having earned it. It's always nice to show up on the scene and win and dominate everybody, but you kind of like a story, and I feel like that's still kind of missing from Lyra Valkyria. So we'll see. I mean, they've got a ways to work to kind of make that interesting and see what they do with it. But like we said, I mean, you give it to Bayley, you can set up a WrestleMania match and some great storytelling there for a while. Instead, it's just kind of been shoved to the side. We then had World Heavyweight Champion Gunther enter through. He tried to do the Yeet thing himself. He kind of went through the crowd, tried to go about that. Then he turned on the commentary team and was starting to ask Michael Cole and Pat McAfee if he actually thought Jey Uso could beat him. McAfee looked like he was about to say, yeah, I really do believe it. But Uso entered, big brawl ensued. Security had to break it up. So just nothing necessarily needed here, just something to advance. And I thought it was good. Get the crowd involved all day.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Gunther was just really took on that heel role. He told that kid to sit down because you know how Jay normally goes to a kid and does the thing in the crowd. Good. He was like, "Kid, get away." He's like, "Get out of this." He's like, "I'm not." I thought it was a fun segment. Gunther, we talked about it. His title reign, it's been kind of stale, but whenever he's given a chance, I think he does a great job. And this was another example of it.
Then we had Penta against Pete Dunne. Dunne controlled early. He was doing the whole joint manipulation thing, which he specializes in. Ludwig Kaiser came to watch by ringside. He even tried to help Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne didn't want the help. Those two have been kind of butting heads. and Penta used the distraction to go ahead and pick up the victory. And then he wiped out both Dunn and Kaiser as they were at ringside brawling with each other. So I don't know. It continues to just be a big rise for Penta. They got to find something for him to do at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and he's kind of been all around right now, doing a bunch of interviews. So, decent, I guess, kind of mini feud they'd have. Ludwig Kaiser, your boy, kind of they got something for him to do. Pete Dunne on there as well. Penta is still great in the ring. I think he's fun, but he debuted 2 months ago. So yeah, they'll find something for him, and hopefully he's on that WrestleMania card.
Yeah, I think they've got to do something with him. The people are really into that right now. It's new, it's fresh, and it's a way to go. Couple quick matches as we go through and finish out Raw rather quickly. Elimination Chamber qualifying match. We mentioned Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. Ultimately, we had a little bit of a distraction from Belair and Naomi. Of course, they're still trying to get payback on Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. They were even in their East Compton Clovers from bringing on costumes, which was kind of fun. But ultimately, Roxanne Perez wins. Raquel Rodriguez loses. We've already kind of talked about each of them. And then we had the New Day come out to address their brutal attack on Rey Mysterio. And then we had LWO come out to kind of meet with them. It's obviously kind of a middleman's match to get you back into Rey Mysterio and maybe Dragon Lee against these guys, against New Day at some point. But it's not necessarily one that I want to see. LWO they've kind of lost. They've went ahead and moved on the people that I think were interesting in that group. Carlito, and most recently they got rid of, now I'm blanking on her name, but they're kind of trying to start a push for her.
Zelina Vega on
SmackDown. I think those people are a little bit more interesting than what's left over of LWO. And I think specifically, unfortunately for Dragon Lee, they were kind of positioning him as the next luchador that they were going to go with. And now that Penta's there, he doesn't look like, I don't know if he ever looked like that, but at least you could say this is our next up and coming guy. Now it's like, no, we watched the show. He's not.
Yeah.
It's Penta is your biggest next luchador.
Yeah, I agree. It just, I don't know what they're doing something with this, right? Obviously it's a New Day, Rey Mysterio. That's kind of where they're going for. But yeah, the rest of the members of LWO, they were the top merchandise seller. Once again, WWE just kind of dropped the ball with that.
They never necessarily took care of that group. It was just kind of something that you rely on. Timing, or part of it was the place that we were doing it in.
Yeah.
And then part of it was just obviously thinking back to LWO of old. This group has never necessarily lived up to that. Final match on Raw before we move on to SmackDown. Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, the two former Universal champions, went up against each other. This is a great match. A lot of near falls. Coup de grace even from Finn Balor that Rollins kicked out of. Ultimately, he was able to escape a crossface by Balor, deliver the stomp for the victory. We see a lot of good. It was a really good match. And maybe at just a point, you might have thought that Finn Balor might have got in to go in there. The only reason I thought that he might is because Damian Priest, who you mentioned, is just kind of there. There's not a big reason for him at Elimination Chamber. I thought they might still set up Priest and Balor for WrestleMania, with obviously Balor going with his alter ego. But I don't know if we'll see that. Maybe we'll still see that Elimination Chamber. I don't know if we want to. But I don't necessarily know what's next for Priest or Balor anyway. So maybe it is the way to go.
Yeah, it was a little confusing. Like I said last week, I could tell Finn Balor was in this to take the pin. Very disappointing with it. And one thing I do want to say, going back to the Roxanne Perez, Raquel Rodriguez, Roxanne Perez won it by hitting her finisher on, or Roxanne won it by hitting her finisher on Raquel. Raquel no sold that finisher. I don't know if you saw that. It's like a pop rock, like roll up type thing. It's her finisher. When she was doing the pin, Raquel was moving her legs trying to get out of it, and then she no sold it. That just caused a controversy on the internet. If you look at Twitter on that, or whatever we call it these days, people were pretty upset that she no sold her finisher and kind of her debut on Raw.
Not a good look. So there's always stuff to break down. We've broken down a lot of Raw. We're going to break down SmackDown when we return on Nuclear Heat.
Did you know that AmeriCorps programs improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement in Nebraska? For example, AmeriCorps program, serving with the RISE program, helps students on probation for truancy gain skills to improve both their attendance and performance in school. Discover more about AmeriCorps programs making a difference in your community at serve.nebraska.gov. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Why are some people more successful? Is it talent and determination, or did they recognize an opportunity? Discover a career that lets you help families reach their financial goals as you build lasting professional relationships. One with unlimited income potential. From Modern Woodman, a leading fraternal financial services provider.
I'm Modern Woodman Regional Director Sean Erickson. Call me at 402-483-6515 to learn about career opportunities.
Modern Woodman of America. Touching lives, securing futures.
At Fairway Meat Market, you're family. And as part of the family, they want to save you money on your meat and groceries. Now through February 23rd, enjoy all-natural boneless chicken breasts for $2.98 per pound. 8-ounce USDA Choice Bacon Wrap Sirloin Filet for $4.99 each. Pepsi, Coke, or 7-Up Mix and Match $3.99 each when you buy 3. And Busch Light 30 racks just $16.99 when you buy more than $6 in fresh meat. That's all at Fairway Meat Market in the Rockledge Square Shopping Center, just south of 84th and Van Dorn.
Hey there, fellas. It's your girl Jordan with Sartor Heyman Jewelry. When it comes to gift giving, it's all about the wow factor. And let me tell you, nothing wows quite like jewelry. Whether it's a delicate necklace or a statement ring, jewelry makes the right statement. So if you want to knock her socks off, or anything else for that matter, skip the generic gifts and go straight for the bling. Until next time, this is Jordan at Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just a professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, our passion. For happier, healthier furry friends.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Aloe Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela. They let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit aloefiber.com to switch today.
Discover the difference that expertise and experience can make in your real estate journey with Next Ag Appraisal and Realty. Whether you need an appraisal, sales, or farm management, Next Ag comes up with a solution with your legacy and goals in mind. Next Ag isn't just their name, it's your future. So why wait? Visit their website today at www.nextagrealestate.com or give them a call at 402-380-0432 and turn your dreams into reality. Your land, your legacy, their solution. Next Ag Appraisal and Realty.
Attention all wing fans! Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays, enjoy 89-cent boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.29 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today at 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. We only have a few minutes here to run down SmackDown. Of course, we mentioned it was from the Big Easy this week. The Rock's appearance was the big deal about it, but we talked about that in the first segment. So the first in the action in the ring was Drew McIntyre and Jimmy Uso. Nothing necessarily special here as far as in-ring action, but ultimately Jimmy Uso gets the upset victory for some reason, and Drew McIntyre continues to lose. I don't get it, but this is what they continue to do to Drew's poor character. Now they did have him hit Jimmy Uso and beat him up after the bell. So I think ultimately you're probably gonna have a payback match where Drew wins. So I get it. You got to start the feud and give Jimmy a little bit to work with. But man, I just feel bad for Big Jim because a couple years ago he was headlining WrestleMania, as they like to say it. Everybody's saying they're headlining WrestleMania, but being part of that night one special with with everybody, and you look at everybody involved there now. Jey Uso's just the big singles push. Cody and or Sami Zayn, excuse me, and KO are heading for another WrestleMania. It's going to be hard for Big Jim to get a spot, I would think.
Yeah, he's kind of the one guy, like you said, that's just kind of been left out. And what's sad, and I've said this before, I think he is a better in-ring performer than Jey is. Just Jay's got the entrance. Jay's more over with the crowd. But hey, he gets a win over Drew. Kind of said he was trying to ruin his time, right? Something like that. I think he was going for it, and I never like when the heel loses and then it's like he didn't lose and just attacks the guy. So I mean, kind of just and if that's the case, you might as well just had him win the match, and then just continue the feud a little bit longer. But maybe it's going to be a Drew McIntyre, Jimmy Uso pre-WrestleMania show. I don't know.
I don't know if that quite makes it to WrestleMania.
I mean, Drew McIntyre needs to be on the WrestleMania card, but you're right. I mean, Jimmy Uso, he's probably going to be part of the Andre the Giant. Might win it. Hey, they're like, Andre. They're like, hey, in 5 years, we're gonna give you this Andre the Giant win. In 5 years, your time is now. When you're 45.
Well, and I feel bad for him too, because I don't think it's necessarily they looked at him and Jay and said, "This is the guy." It was that he had that injury. If you remember when they started it and the bloodline got so good, it wasn't necessarily. I don't know. Maybe they had the plan all along, but they're like, hey, Jay, the Usos would make sense with Roman Reigns early in his title run, but Jimmy was injured, so they kind of did this whole storyline around it, and so Jay kind of stood up, and that's where he got the main event Jay Uso tag, and so it just just timing. Sometimes it's timing, even against your own twin. In wrestling.
And maybe Jay needs to like hit the nay or something from like 2012, 2014. Needs to get a gimmick that Gangnam style something.
His gimmick is no year. It's the opposite.
But no, he's got to go original. He's got to come out doing the Gangnam style. Like I said, the stanky leg something. It worked with Jay. Jay brought something back from like 10 years ago. So I mean that's all he's missing from his package right now.
Yeah, well, we'll see if he gets that going. And again, I feel like Drew should just be so much better positioned than he is. But he's in the elimination chamber. I don't expect him to win it. A little bit later, we're just going to kind of jump around here. Because The Miz and Carmelo Hayes did go get together against R-Truth and LA Knight. It was kind of funny because it was just good work from R-Truth, right? The whole night. He thought that LA Knight was from Louisiana, so that was kind of the big reveal there. He also at one time in this match forgot that he was not tagging with The Miz anymore, so he went to tag him in and sat outside of it. So good comedy work from R-Truth. But I was particularly impressed with the finisher that Carmelo Hayes and The Miz, they kind of combined their finisher together. The Miz has been trying to recruit Carmelo Hayes. Not like Carmelo's doing anything better. So I think there's a little bit of potential with those two.
Yeah, it's a little interesting because The Miz kind of, with R-Truth, he was the annoyed one, right? And now he's kind of the R-Truth of the Carmelo Hayes Miz feud. So yeah, that's a little funny on there. But yeah, they looked like they had chemistry on there. So interesting to see, maybe they're two participants in the Andre the Giant Memorial. I'm just going to keep popping that up for you until we get to WrestleMania.
That's
right. That's kind of the big thing we're waiting for there.
Well, and The Miz is just so interesting because he gets moved around from angle to angle, but he's just so good in every part of it that, in doing whatever that, I thought he was really good again here tonight. Let's see. Then we had Tiffany Stratton. She was coming out and talking about having to go against Charlotte Flair, but she was interrupted pretty quickly. Got into her matchup with Candice LeRae with Nia Jax at ringside. Charlotte was at the announcer's desk. Really sloppy match, not a good look, particularly the Alabama slam over by the barricade. Tiffany didn't get, I don't think, any of it for Candice coming down. She slipped a little bit later. So, sometimes, again, we want these people pushed, and then, at times you kind of see they're not 10-year veterans in the ring, and so maybe a little bit to work with there. Maybe the chemistry just wasn't great between the two of them. But in any case, kind of a repeat from last week. really is kind of what happened, because then, of course, Jax wasn't happy about Candice LeRae losing. They attacked Tiffany Stratton. Trish Stratus comes out to make the save. And then, but ultimately Jax hits them both with the Annihilator. They put them both together. And of course, you're going to have this matchup at the Elimination Chamber. And then Charlotte Flair walks in the ring and points to the WrestleMania sign.
It was, and we have to say this, and double-edged sword here. You're going to say I'm a hypocrite. Nia Jax hit probably the worst Annihilator
wasn't great.
She's ever. I mean, you see her literally stand up and then just sit down, and Trish Stratus looked horrible in this too. It was just all around. It just looked bad. It just bad. This is now the second week in a row that Tiffany's laid out and Charlotte's on top of her. Like, I know you can do that for somewhat, but we talked about it. They're just making her look. And this match, maybe it was Candice LeRae. They just didn't have the chemistry that you need. But Tiffany Stratton is just not looking great going into this. She's still great on the mic, all that stuff. But
yeah,
it's like Charlotte. I don't know. It's like they're going to tell us either Charlotte's just going to, pin her, we're all going to be disappointed, or it's going to be one of the greatest upsets at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, she's going to be trying to get the a little bit of a rub from the veteran Trish in here, and if it doesn't look great, then that might not happen. So we'll kind of see what happens there. Obviously, they're going to get the win at Elimination Chamber, but they gotta heat up that Charlotte feud, other than her just coming in when Tiffany loses, because Tiffany shouldn't be losing this much. Heading into this spot.
Yep.
A match between Naomi and Liv Morgan never happened because Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez took out Naomi and Bianca Belair before it could get started. The only part that I like about that is that the GM was back there talking to him, and Liv Morgan just laughed. They both laughed, but Liv Morgan just did a great job of just thinking it was hilarious. Whatever the reprimandation was going to be. So I thought that was pretty good. Then of course we had the Rock moments. Get into don't have much time left here, so quickly just going to kind of go over Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins. They come out during a DIY pretty deadly match and take down those tag teams, as well as Motor City Michigan, who ran in. So they continue to kind of have a bit of a battle or something, at least going for the tag team division. But ultimately, the main event was Damian Priest and Braun Strowman against Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Fatu accidentally hits Solo Sikoa tonight with a super kick. And this allowed Strowman and in Priest specifically to get the win. Priest hit the South of Heaven on Sikoa to get the win. Braun, it always looks funny to see a big man celebrating at ringside. So I thought that was kind of good. But it's setting, more than anything, this kind of sets up more tension between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it's a little confusing, right? On what they're doing here. And then a big part of it too is Solo Sikoa at one point in the night said he has to go talk to Nick Aldis, so you're kind of curious to see what that is. But yeah, it's kind of looking like a very rushed Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa is going to be their WrestleMania card for the both of them, which I think that's a waste for Jacob, and I don't think anybody really wants to see that.
They still, every time Fatu and Braun Strowman kind of have a stare down, there's energy in the building. I think people would want to see that even more. But again, this Bloodline storyline, as much as we love it and we praise it, sometimes we can't get away from it. So
yeah, and hey, they're part of the Rock's, family.
Yeah,
they're gonna get a spot at WrestleMania whether we like it or not. So that's kind of the.
Tama Tonga gonna be a guest referee in that one?
I mean, he's got to. Dude, we haven't seen that in a while, so I'm getting a little disappointed at that.
Yeah, they just don't see what we see in Tama Tonga. But nope. In any case, that'll wrap it up for our coverage here tonight. WWE Week in Review Show, Nuclear Heat. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Sunday at 9 o'clock. And that'll wrap it up for 93.7 The Ticket programming as well here tonight. We'll send it out to national radio. Early break will wake you up bright and early in the morning.
I used to smoke. I thought of cigarettes as my best friend.
They were always there for me when I needed